Well, there may be no clear-cut options left on the table when it comes to North Korea, and that's hardly the only diplomatic crisis that's knocking at the White House door. Our US security analyst John Kirby joins us now from Washington. Good to have you with us, John. President Trump has called North Korea's actions reckless and dangerous, but he doesn't seem to have any solution other than to point the finger at China. What can be done?
Well, there's not any great options right now, and those options are starting to close off as North Korea continues to advance its program. But I will say this, I have applauded, and I still think I give credit to the Trump administration for trying to work this through Beijing, because the path to Pyongyang goes through Beijing. So they have tried to do this. Unfortunately, they tried to do it, at least publicly, by shaming and tweeting and that kind of thing, and bullying Beijing, which is not going to work. I do think that there's still diplomatic trade space with China, and they ought to try to pursue that before we very quickly get into a position where, without diplomacy, all you're left with is some sort of form of containment of the North, and an acceptance of their nuclear capabilities, and or some sort of military options, which, as everybody's reported, is nobody's prime idea of a way to solve this problem. So there's still things that they can do. I just think that they need to start working a little harder at the diplomacy with China, because China does have unique influence, not only in the region but in the world, over Pyongyang, and they have not used that influence to a greater good.
Looking now at Russia and the US, they are involved in this tit-for-tat, as we are seeing play out. You know, it seems like you cut our embassy staff, so we'll cut yours. Where does that end? We know Trump's staffers have expressed hope that the relationship will improve, but what's it going to take?
Well, it's difficult to know where this is going to go. Obviously, I think it's important for people to remember that this retaliation was probably what Putin would have done and was poised to do back in the fall when December, when President Obama kicked out those 35 diplomats and took away 2 of their sites here in Maryland. This was probably what he was poised to do at the time. He held off, thinking that maybe things would get better under Trump, and that, you know, he wouldn't have to do it. Obviously, he pulled the trigger now in light of this legislation that is going to the president's desk right now. This could be the end of it. This could be, just as you put it, a tit-for-tat, and it could be the end of it. But it certainly signals that Putin and Russia are losing their patience with the Trump administration, that any hope that they once had that the relationship was going to get better or dramatically improve, I think, have evaporated. And I applaud what Vice President Pence said today in Estonia. I think that is exactly the right message. I think that this administration, the Trump administration, has run smack dab into the belly of the Russian bear, and they realize what they're up against. And I think they're starting to have a more pragmatic sense of how to operate globally with Russia as not a beneficent state.
Yeah, Mike Pence certainly not mincing his words today.
No, not at all.
John, you are a retired Rear Admiral of the US Navy, and General John Kelly is a former Marine. What can he bring to the White House in his new role as Chief of Staff? Can he bring a steady hand?
I think he can. I know General Kelly very well. We worked together on the staff of Leon Panetta, who was then the Secretary of Defense. The general was the senior military assistant. I was the spokesman. I worked with him every day. I have enormous respect for him. He is a man of great self-discipline, a man of great candor, and a terrific leader. If he is given the mandate, if he's invested in by President Trump and supported by President Trump, he can really bring order out of the chaos that is now the West Wing by structuring processes and procedures so that information flow is both transparent but also more directly effective for the President of the United States. He's a great guy at doing that kind of thing. I mean, it's just in his DNA to lead. It really is going to come down to whether or not President Trump will trust him and invest that authority in him.
John Kirby, always great to get your perspective. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.